Hey friends, what up? And welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Chav, Daf 20 of Masechta Taanis. Friends, Daf 20 is amazing. But yeah, as like the past few days, my voice is a shtickle schwach. I have a cup of tea next to me, and we're going to see if that helps. Yeah, today in some ways, my voice was a shtickle better. In other ways, I've been coughing a shtickle more. So, let's see, I don't know. Friends, let's go weiter. So we're going to start off today's daf with an amazing story about Nakdimon ben Gurion. Here we go. Daf Yud Tes Amud Beis. Nakdimon ben Gurion. About 10 lines or so from the bottom. Taner Rabbanon. The rabbis taught. Pamachas Alu Kol Yisrael L'Regel L'Yerushalayim. That one time all the Yidden went to celebrate the Shalosh Regalim in Jerusalem. Gefaldig. Of course, I live in Jerusalem. I like to be here for the Shalosh Regalim. Alright. V'lo mayim lishtos. But there was no water for the people to drink. That's bad. Halach Nakdimon ben Gurion. So, Nakdimon ben Gurion, of course, the Gemara in Gittin describes that Nakdimon ben Gurion was one of the 3 very wealthy fellows in Jerusalem. He lived at the end of the Second Temple, around the time of the destruction of the Second Temple. So, meaning he lived during the time of the Second Beis Hamikdash at the end. Interesting, it feels like we're seeing lots of stories from people who lived during the Second Beis Hamikdash. I mean, does that blow your mind? It does, right? We're mamash hearing stories about people during the Second Temple. I mean, it's amazing. Anyways, no water for the people. So, Nakdimon ben Gurion, so he went, Nakdimon ben Gurion etzel adon echad. He went to a certain sort of like noble fellow. Omar lo, and he said to this nobleman, Halveni shtem esrim ma'ayonos ma'im lo'ele regalim. Can you lend for me 12 ma'ayonos, 12 streams of water, whatever? Can you lend me a lot of water? And in return, you'll get back your 12, wells, streams of water. Basically, Nakdimon ben Gurion was saying, look, you give me water, and don't worry that it's going to rain. And when it rains, it'll fill up, whatever ditches and stuff that you gave me, and there'll be, you'll get all your water back. Where am I? Okay, and if I don't return this water to you, i.e. if it doesn't rain, I will give to you 12 bars of silver, right? If it doesn't rain, I'll pay you money. They made up a certain time, a certain date, that by that date, all of his water will be returned to him. So once the day that they agreed upon arrived, and it had not yet rained in the morning, so so in the morning, this nobleman sent to Nakdimon ben Gurion. He said, "No, Nakdimon, it hasn't yet rained. Either send me rain or send me money." Sholach lo, Nakdimon replied, "Leave me alone. Adayin yesh li zman kol hayom kulo shaliu." Nakdimon ben Gurion says, "Hey, chill out, fellow. I still have a whole day." In the afternoon, the noble fellow sent to Nakdimon ben Gurion. He says, "Nakdimon, either send me water or send me money." Nakdimon says, "Look, it ain't over till it's over, and it ain't over, so it's not over." What do you want me to tell you? By Mincha, shalach lo, and then at Mincha, the fellow sent to Nakdimon, Shkar li omayim umo sheyesh li biyadcha. No, Nakdimon, send me either water or money. Adai shalach lo, adai yesh li shalach shows by yom. To which, excuse me, Nakdimon said, look, fellow, I still have time, leave me alone. I'm running out of tea. Alright. Ligleg Olav also Adon. And this noble fellow sort of laughed at Nakdimon Ben Gurion. Omar, Kol Hashana Kula, Liyadu Geshamim V'achshav Yadu Geshamim. He says, I don't understand what Nakdimon thinks. The entire year it hasn't rained. There was no water. He borrowed water from me because it didn't rain at all. He thinks that now, in the last second, bidaka tishim, I think is what they say in Hebrew. They're gonna, you think all of a sudden it's gonna rain. Anyways, he was certain that a big payday was imminent. Nichnas lebeis hamerchotz b'simcha, and he went to the bathhouse very happy. That sounds very nice. Nobleman goes to the bathhouse. That sounds like a nice life. But who wants a nice life? We got stuff to do. Alright. Acha'odo nichnas b'simcha leveis hamerchatz, Nakdimon nichnas leveis hamikdash shu otziv. Now, while the noble fellow was going into the bathhouse all happy, so Nakdimon nichnas leveis hamikdash. So Nakdimon went into the temple, kishu otziv, and he was very, very sad. So he wrapped himself in a talis and he prayed to the Eibishter, and he says to the Eibishter, he says, Master of the world, it is revealed before you, I didn't do any of this out of my own honor. I didn't do it out of the honor of my father's household. I did it for your honor, Eibishter, so that there should be water available for the people who are coming to the pilgrims, the festival pilgrims. Miyad, immediately, niskashu shamayim ba'ov, the heavens got filled up with clouds. V'yardu geshamim ad shenismalu shtem esrim hayonus mayim ve'osiru. And it rained so stark, it rained so much, that all of those 12 sort of things of water that he borrowed from the noble fellow got filled up with water, ve'osiru, and there was even left over. There was even more. And then, when this noble fellow left the bathhouse, Nakdimon Ben Gurion yotz mi beis hamikdash, Nakdimon Ben Gurion was leaving the holy temple. Kishinifku was zebazeh, and when they bumped into each other, Omar lo, Nakdimon Ben Gurion says to this fellow, Tein li d'mei mayim yoser sheyesh li biyodcha. Now Nakdimon Ben Gurion turns to this fellow. He says, you see what happened? It rained so stark that there's even leftover water, and now technically you owe me. Omar lo. So the fellow says to Nakdimon Ben Gurion, this fellow says, look, I'm aware of the fact that the Eibishter just took care of you, that the Eibishter made it rain on your account. But I still have an argument to be made against you, that I will be able to extract from you my monies. Because it's already after the Shkias HaChamel. It's already after sunset. And when it rained when it was already in my possession. The deal was over at that point. It's my rain. It's my water. You owe me money. So what did Nakdimon Ben Gurion do? He was not going to be deterred. No way, no how. Chazav v'nichnas leveis hamikdash. He went back into the holy temple. The Satev, he wrapped himself in a talis. V'omar b'tfilah, and he prayed. V'omar, and he said, Lefana, before the Eibishter, Riboyna Shalaylam, Master of the world, Hoda sheyesh lecha ahuvim b'olamcha, let it be known that you have beloved people in this world. Miyad, immediately, Nispazra ovim, the clouds scattered, V'zarcha achama, and the sun shone, in order to show that no, it was not after sunset, it was just a cloudy day, and that's why it seemed dark. But really the sun was still out, and therefore when it rained during the day, and therefore Nagdimun Ben Gurion was potter from paying back the fellow got his water back, and that was that. Bosa Shah, Omar Lo Adon, and at that time this noble fellow said to Nagdimun Ben Gurion, Ilu lo nakdira achama hoya pischon pe'alecho. If not for the fact that the sun pierced through the clouds, I would have been able to make the argument that it only rained after our deal was over. But now that the sun pierced through, then what can I tell you? When it rained, it must have still been the day, and therefore Nagdimun Ben Gurion, good play, good move. I can't really make the argument that you owe me anything. Oh shucks, I'll have to take advantage a different time. Ta'ana, it was Taka taught, Lo Nagdimun Shmo. His name Taka was not Nagdimun, Ela Buni Shmo. His name was Buni. Alright? V'lama Niko Shmo Nagdimun. Then why do they call him Nagdimun, not Buni? Sheniktu Achama Ba'avuro, because the sun pierced through the clouds for him. Tana Rabbanon, the rabbis Taka taught. Shlosha Noktim Aloim Cham Ba'avurim. There were three fellows for whom the sun kind of pierced through for them, or I guess in some cases kind of stalled for them. Moshe of Yoshua and Nagdimun Ben Gurion. Givaldig. That is some sort of consortium to be part of. Moses, Joshua, and Nagdimun Ben Gurion. Wow. That's a special place to be. B'shlom Nagdimun Ben Gurion. Gemara. Okay, so Nagdimun Ben Gurion obviously was the situation where that we just described, with the fellow and the water, and the sun pierced through the clouds. Yoshua Nami, also by Joshua. Kruxiv, the pasuk says, Vayidum Hashemesh, that the sun stopped, V'yareach Omad V'gomer, and the moon stood still. So we see that it happened to Joshua Oichit. Ela Moshe Minol. How do I know that there was such a thing with Moses? So Omar Rabbi Elazar, Asya Ochel Ochel. So it says Rabbi Elazar, well it says Ochel by Joshua, and it says Ochel by Moses. It says by Moses, I will begin to apply your fear. And it says by Joshua, Ochel Gadelcha, I will begin to make you great. So Ochel, just like by Joshua, there was something to do with the sun that stopped. So also by Moshe Rabbeinu. Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani Omar, says Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, also taste. It says taste by Moses, and it says taste by Joshua. It says by Moses, Ochel taste pachtucha, I will begin to apply your fear. It says by Joshua, B'yom Teis Hashem Mori, was on the day that the Eibishter delivered the Amorites to Joshua. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, says Rabbi Yochanan, also migufe dikra, you could push it, see it in the pasuk itself, that it says by Moses, Asher yishmu shimacha v'rogzu v'chol miponecha, that they will hear about you and they will be scared of you. When will they be scared of you? They were scared of Moses at the time that the sun stood in its place for him. Alright, very nice. So apparently the sun stood in its place for Nakdimun ben Gurion, for Joshua, and for Moses. Wow. Let's go weiter, friends. Excusez-moi. And also a city that did not get rained on. If it got rained on a sister city, but not on the city next to it, so bad news. So Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, Vishtei in the klala, and it's bad news. It's a curse for the city that doesn't get the rain, obviously, but it's oichet a curse. It's also a curse for the city that does get the rain, because it's going to be very strong rain, and too strong, not useful. Now we're going to dash in a few psukim. Hos Yerushalayim lenida b'nei, that the pasuk says in Eicha that Jerusalem was like a nida. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav livrache, and Rav Yehuda says in the name of Rav that this is taka, a good thing. Kinida, that just like a nida, manida yesh la heter, ap Yerushalayim yesh la takana. Just like a nida is not a nida forever, ultimately she will no longer be a nida. So also Jerusalem will not be abandoned forever. We will come back to Jerusalem. Friends, I live in Jerusalem, so do many other Yidden. It's gewaldig. Let's go weiter. Hoysa ka'almana, that Jerusalem was like ki almana, it was like a widow. Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, livracha, that's also a blessing. Ki almana, v'lo almana mamish, like a widow, but not actually a widow. Ella, rather, ki isha sheholach baila l'mdinas hayom v'daitu lachzor elea. Rather, it's like a woman whose husband went traveling someplace, but he's going to return. So also Jerusalem, the Eibishter went away, sure, but he'll be back, man. He or she will be back. V'gam ani nosati eschem nivzim u'shvalim, and I have made you nivzim and shvalim, low and abandoned. Amar Rav Yidel, says Rav Yehuda, livracha, that's oichet a blessing. V'lo mukmei minon, lo reishe nairei, v'lo gzirifte, that they're going to be like downtrodden fellows, but they won't be tax collectors, and they won't be police officers. Friends, I had to deal with some tax things today. Not fun, let me tell you. V'ika Hashem es Yisrael kasher yanud hakone b'moyim, that Achia Ashiloni, he says that the Yidden are going to be smitten like a reed moves this way and that in the water. Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, livrache, that it's taka, a blessing. Amar Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar B'Yonason, excuse me, my dichsiv, what does the pasuk mean? Ne'amanim pitzei oev v'ne'asaros nesiko sone. What does it mean that the blemishes, that the wounds of a somebody who loves you are sort of trustworthy, whereas the kisses of somebody who hates you are all mixed up? Tova klala shekilel achia ashiloni es Yisrael yoser mibracha sheberchon bilam arashe, that the curse that Achia Ashiloni cursed the Yidden was nonetheless better than the blessing that Bilam, the evil fellow, blessed the Yidden. Achia Ashiloni kilelon mikone, that when Achia Ashiloni was cursing the Yidden, he cursed them as a reed. Amrloim l'Yisrael, he said to the Yidden, V'hika Hashem es Yisrael kasher yino rakone, that he said that the Eibishter is going to smite the Yidden like a reed moves around. So he basically cursed the Yidden to be like a reed. Makoneze omed b'makomoyim v'gizo machlif. Well, after all, this reed is in a place of water, and when it gets cut down, it can grow back. V'sharash of merubin, and it has many roots. Even if all the winds in the world come and blow at this reed, they don't move it from its place. It just sways with them. And when the storm dies down, the reed nonetheless remains in its place. It ain't going nowhere. Aval, but Bilam Aroshe, Berchon Ke'eres, that Bilam Aroshe blessed the Yidden that they should be like a cedar. Shenemar Ka'arozin, as he says over there, that the Yidden should be like cedars. Ma'eres zeh ino omid b'makom moyim, just like this cedar does not stand in a place of water. Ve'ein gizo machlif, and if you cut it down, it does not grow back. Ve'ein sharoshav merubin, it does not have a lot of roots. Avilu kol aruchas sheba'olam noshviz bo mezizos oso mimkomo. Now, even if it could sustain winds, if a strong southern tempest comes and blows at it, it'll uproot it and flip it on its face. That's not good. And therefore, so it's not good to be blessed like a cedar, because a cedar can get uprooted. But a reed will always be there. It's not going anywhere. Even if the winds blow, it'll blow, and it'll go this way, and it'll go that way, but it ain't going nowhere. Not only that, and that the reed is what we use as the instrument to write Sefer Torahs, Nevi'im, Ksuvim, the reed. Therefore, even when Achia Ashiloni was cursing the Yidden, he nonetheless cursed them as a reed, and a reed is a gewaltige Zach. Wow, oh, I just made another cup of tea. Oh my gosh, that was so gewaltig. It's like turmeric tea, and I put in honey. Gewalt. Wow, that's like transformative. Alright, friends, moving on. Alright, right, I quoted that Gemara the other day from Eruvin. It was in Nun Gimel Amud Aleph. Chosh begrono yasuk b'Torah. That if your throat's bothering you should study Torah, but maybe not record Babylon Talmud. I don't know if that's the same, but I'll go upon him. Let's go weiter. Wow. Okay, friends, this is a gewaltige story. Let's go. Tana Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, a fellow should be soft as a reed. He should not be strong like a cedar. Maise, what's the ches? Is it somewhere else? Avos Reb Nosson, okay. Sheba, Reb Lazar Reb Shimon, mi Migdal Gedor, mi Beis Rabbo. That there's a maise that Reb Lazar Reb Shimon was coming from Migdal Gedor, from his Rebbe, and he was riding a donkey, and he was, enjoying himself and riding and having a good time next to the sea, next to the river. And he was very, very happy. And maybe he was feeling a shtickle haughty because he learned a lot of Torah. And a fellow came by. He was very, very, very ugly. And Rabbi Elazar Reb Sherman, who was feeling very gewaldig, he looks at this ugly fellow and he says, Shalom Alecho. And he didn't respond to him. Excuse me, this ugly fellow says to Reb Shimon ben Elazar, he says, Shalom Alecha Rebbe, v'lo echzilo. And Reb Elazar Reb Shimon does not respond to this fellow, right? So this fellow who the Gemara says was exceedingly ugly. So he says, Shalom Alecha Rebbe to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, and Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon ignores him. Well, he doesn't ignore him. Omer lo, instead of saying, oh hi, how are ya? He says, Reika kam mechur oso ha'ish. He says, you are so ugly. Maybe your entire city is so ugly also? Oh my lo, ain't yodea. And says this ugly fellow, he says, I don't know. Why don't you go ask the craftsman who made me and tell him how ugly this vessel he made is. When Rabbi Elazar, Reb Shimon realized what in the world he was doing, that he sinned, Yorad min hachomer, he got off of the donkey, and he bowed down, he prostrated himself before this ugly fellow, and he said to him, he says, hey, forgive me. I am not going to sort of budge from my position. I am not going to forgive you until you go to the craftsman who made me and say to him, how ugly this vessel is that you made. He was saying to Reb Shimon, you better go to the Eibishter and tell him just how ugly this person that he created is. And Reb Shimon was traveling behind this ugly fellow until the ugly fellow reached his city. Yatsu, where am I? Fine. Yatsu b'nei Iro likraso, and the people of this city went to greet him. V'hayu omrim, and they were saying, Omrim lo shalom alecha, Rebbe, Rebbe, Mori, Mori, right? Blessed upon you, my master, my teacher, my teacher, my master, my master. Omer loim, the miatim kohen Rebbe, Rebbe. And this ugly fellow said to them, who are you referring to as Rebbe, Rebbe? Omer lo. They said to him, lo zesha mitayel achrecha, to the fellow who is traveling behind you. Omer loim, and the ugly fellow said to them, Imze Rebbe al yirbu kamosu b'Yisrael. If this fellow you call a Rebbe, there should not be any more like him in Israel. Amrulo, they said to him, Mipnei ma? Why? Why are you saying this about Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon? Amruloim, he said to them, Kach mekach also li, because this is what he did to me. Amrulo, they said to him, Afal pichen, even so, Mecholo, forgive him. Shalom Gadol Bateirahu, because he's a great Torah scholar. Amruloim, and the ugly fellow said to them, Bishvilchem harini mochelo, that for you I will forgive Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, uvavad shlo yei rogel la'asos ken, as long as he doesn't do this again. Miad nichnos Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon v'darash, and immediately Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon expounded, le'olam yehei odom roch kakone v'al yehei kosher kaires. A fellow should always be soft like a reed and should not be hard like a cedar, because he, Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, was hard like a cedar, and that was bad. Rather, you should be soft like a reed. Lefichach zocha kone litol imenu kulmus lichtov bo sefer Torah tefillin mezuzos. And because a reed is soft and it can go this way and that way in the wind, and it doesn't get uprooted, and it's a gewalt, so therefore the reed was chosen to be the implement with which to write a sefer Torah, tefillin, and mezuzos. The Mishnah continues, V'chein ir sheyesh bo dever u'mapoles v'chule. If you have a city that has pestilence or buildings that are falling down. Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis Taka taught, Mapolis Sha'amru, when they talk about buildings falling down, Brios Velo Ra'uos, we're talking about healthy buildings, not rickety buildings. She'enan V'uyos Lipo, buildings that are not meant to be falling down. Velo Ha'uyos Lipo, not buildings that are meant to be falling down. Heiniu Brios, Heiniu She'enan V'uyos Lipo. Aren't these things the same things? Healthy buildings and buildings that are not meant to fall down. Heiniu Ru'uyos Lipo. And aren't rickety buildings the same thing as buildings that are meant to be falling down? Lo tzricha denaflu machmas kovayu. Well, the nafkamina could be if they're strong buildings, but they're very, very tall, so therefore they're unsturdy. Inami, alternatively, tekaimon aguda denaire, or that they are on the river bank, that the river kind of weakens the foundations of the building, and they could fall down. Even though they're built strong, but because the foundations are weak, they could fall down. That in the city of Narda, there was a weak wall. And Rav and Shmuel would not walk under the wall because it was rickety and it was dangerous. And even though this rickety wall managed to stay upright in Narda for 13 years, so the Maisa, it hasn't fallen yet, but nonetheless, Rav and Shmuel would not walk underneath this wall. Yom Achad, Ikla Rav Ada bar Ahava l'Hosam, uwa. So one day, Rav Ada bar Ahava Taka visited Narda. Omane Shmuel Rav Nesi Mar Nakif, and Shmuel says to Rav, why don't we go around this wall like we always do, because it's dangerous. Omarle, so Rav says to Shmuel, Lo tzrichana, we don't need to walk around it. Hayidna, we could just walk right next to the wall. It won't fall down. Friends, do you hear this? Because Rav Ada bar Ahava is with us, that he has a lot of merit, and in his merit, I'm assured, says Rav, that the wall will not fall down, and I'm not nervous, and therefore we could walk next to this wall and it won't fall down. That's amazing, because after all, I believe that Rav Ada bar Ahava was a student of Rav, and nonetheless, Rav is saying that Rav Ada bar Ahava is here. There's nothing to worry about because he has so much merit. That is gewaldig. Rav Huna, Havle Chamra Ba'u Besa, Re'iyah, Uwa. So Rav Huna had some wine in a rickety house. Uvay Lefnuye. And he wanted to remove the wine from the rickety house. Ayle Rav Ada bar Ahava l'Hosam. So what was his solution? He was nervous to go into the rickety house because lest it fall down on him. So he figured, why doesn't he just go into the house with Rav Ada bar Ahava? So he brought Rav Ada bar Ahava into the house, Moshri B'Shmaita, and he was talking and learning Adipanya until he removed the barrel of wine from the rickety house. And immediately after they left the house with the wine, the house collapsed and fell down. Argish Rav Ada bar Ahava realized what happened, that he was used by Rav Huna in order to extract the wine from the house. So Ikbid, he got very upset. Because Rav Ada bar Ahava held like what Rabbi Yanai says, a fellow should not stand in a dangerous predicament, the Yomar, and say, Osim li nes, that a miracle is going to happen for me. Shema ein osim lo nes, lest a miracle should not happen for him, he'll be in very big trouble. From timsilomer osim lo nes, And even if a miracle does in fact happen, it comes at a price. They take it away from his merits. Now he has less merits because he already used up some of his merits to be saved in that predicament. Excuse me, I'm just lubricating my vocal cords with tea and honey. I think that this is the third cup of tea that I'm drinking in this Babylon Talmud segment. Omer, Rav Chanan, says Rav Chanan, Maikra, where do we see a pasuk for this? Tichsiv is the pasuk says, by Yaakov Avinu, katonti mikol achsodim mikol ha'emes, that I become small and shrunken because of all of the kindness that the Eibishter has done for me. Yaakov Avinu was concerned that maybe it came at a price, that it was being taken from his merits. What was so gewaldig about Ravada Bar Ahava? Ki hode itmar, like the following that's stated. Shalu Tamidav Ravada Bar Ahava. Ravada Bar Ahava's students asked him, how did you manage to live such a long life? Omer Loim, he said to them, because miyomai, in my entire life, lo ikpadati b'soch beisi, I never got upset in my house. V'lo tza'adti b'fnei mishagadol mimeni, and I never walked before somebody who's greater than me. V'lo hirharti b'mvos hamtunofos, and I never thought Torah things, holy things, in dirty places. V'lo halachti dalar ames b'lo Torah v'lo tefillin, I never walked 4 cubits, 4 ames, without Torah or without tefillin. V'lo yashanti b'beis hamedrash, I didn't sleep in the study hall. Lo shenas keva v'lo shenas arai, not a temporary sleep and not a permanent sleep. V'lo sosti b'takolas chaverai, and I did not rejoice in the downfall of my colleagues. V'lo korasi lechaver b'achinoso v'amri lo b'chanichoso, and I never referred to my friends by their nicknames, or alternatively, some say by their family names, their surnames. I think that means family names. Like last name or whatever. My oh my, in 2 years doing Babylon Talmud, I never lost my voice like this. What do you guys like? You guys prefer with a voice or without a voice? Let's go weiter. Omele Rove Rafim Bar Poppe. So Rove says to Rafim Bar Poppe, Lema lon mar me'ani mili ma'al yiso dav ovid rufuna. Rafim Bar Poppe, tell us epis about the amazing ways of Rafuna. Omele, so Rafim Bar Poppe says, Binikuse lo dachirna. I don't remember much about Ravuna's younger years. Bisivuse dachirna, but I do remember things about his older years. Dechoyoma de'eva, whenever it was a cloudy day, havu mafkin le begoyharka de daiva, they would take him out in like a golden carriage, visir la l'chule mata, and he would check out the entire city. What was it, Surah or something? Mecholashisa, davas ru'iyasa, and any wall that was rickety, havasosala, he would destroy it. If the owner of the wall could afford it, the owner would pay for the repairs. And if the owner could not afford it, Ravuna would pay for it out of his own pocket. That out of the concern of the public good, that no walls should fall down in the upcoming storm, he would make sure that any dangerous walls would be dismantled prior to the storm. And every Friday, he would send out a messenger to the market. And any vegetables that were left over to the farmers, he would purchase them from them, and he would throw it into the river. And Rashi explains that by throwing it into the river, at least people downstream would be able to receive them. Why not just give them to the poor? Well, if he would just give them to the poor every week, well then they might come to rely upon Rafuna, and then if 1 week there's no leftovers, they'll have nothing. So that's risky. Why doesn't he at least feed it to animals? Because he holds that food that's befitting for humans, you should not be feeding to animals. Why doesn't he just not purchase them at all? Why does he have to buy all the leftovers? Well, if he doesn't purchase them, well, then the farmers are going to say to themselves, well, we have all this extra. Maybe we shouldn't bring as much next time. And if they don't bring as much next time, well, then people won't have vegetables and things for Shabbos. So he figures, let the farmers continue with their, shefa, and then with their bounty, and then whatever's left over, they know that they can rely upon Rav Huna to pick up the bill. And that way, they'll always come with a lot of stuff so that people always have produce for Shabbos. Excuse me. Kiavale Milsa da Asusa, whenever Rav Huna was able to get his hands on a medicine, Havimali Kuza, the Tolile the Sefer the Besa, so he would fill up a pitcher of the medicine and he would hang it by his house. And he would say, whoever needs some of this medicine, just come and chaparine. That those who say Milsa the Shivsa Avagomer, that he was knowledgeable in the ways of this demon or this evil spirit called Shivsa that would be on unwashed hands. V'havamonech kuza demaya v'dalile, and therefore he would take a pitcher of water and hang it by his house. V'amr called the tzrich leisiv leil, whoever needs water to wash their hands, so that this evil spirit should not come upon him, come and wash your hands with this water. To load stocking, so you should not be endangered. Ki have a karik rifta, whenever he would make epis a meal, have a posach lebave, he would open up the gates to his house for Omar, and he would say, commanded tzrich leisiv lecho, whoever needs a meal, come and eat with me. Omar Rave, says Rave, kulu matzina mekaimon, I would technically be able to do any of these great things of Rav Huna, nevar meha, with the exception of the last one, that he would invite everybody to come and eat with him. To lo matzina lemebod mishum denefishe v'nechele de mechoza. That Rava says that he would be unable to just invite the public to eat with him because there's two ways to understand this. There's too many poor people in Mechoza that it just wouldn't be shaykh, it would just be way too many people all the time. Which is interesting because Mechoza is generally, when it comes up in the Gemara, it's describing how wealthy of a city it was. But I guess if it was a big city, it probably had wealthy people and poor people as well. Alternatively, it's the soldiers or something, and if he just opens up his doors, then all the soldiers would come. He doesn't really want to deal with this. Friends, I'm not going to do a recap because my voice is a little bit overworked, but that was Daf Chof of Masech Taanis. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace out.